talking about freedom, liberty, and how it's connected through the Commonwealth. So, freedom is not being having somebody else's will inflicted upon you or an individual. So, not having an outside force come in and dictate what an individual or a unit will be going to do. And liberty is basically to do what you want to do when you want to do it um, without restrictions. And it can also, all these can be tied to Commonwealth, which is community, through our readings. So, Commonwealth is a community where everybody lives together, and relies on each other for their for survival. The milkman, the butcher, the seamstress, government, so the police force, whatever the case may be. So all these individuals live together and rely on the specialty of another person to survive. And it also, I know this is a bit oversimplified, but I only have a few minutes with you guys, so this, these fundamental ideas became was built on over and over, and freedom became intertwined with liberty. And so, with this early definition of liberty, the early founders of each state within the Union had greatly influenced the overall United States, and and so while some of the states didn't require or didn't want to abide by the outside force, which was a tyrannical government having their will being inflicted on the states, was a no-go for a lot of these states. So what happened was each state was given an option to succeed from the Union, whereas a lot of these states had decided to succeed or threatened to succeed at some point, and they did that over taxes, wars, and trade, which ultimately shaped the laws and Constitution of the United States, and it decided their own future. So Don Livingston pointed out in his article about the war on the Civil War. So here's his quote. I'm going to read it word for word here. And so Robert E. Lee believed in the gradual emancipation. He had emancipated his slaves, and along with other Confederate leaders, argued early in the war that slaves should be armed and given military service to the country. As their first step of citizenship, the Confederate Constitution abolished the slave trade and allowed the admission of non-slave holding states into the Confederation. The Confederate cabinet agreed to abolish slavery within 5 years after the cessation of hostilities in exchange for British and French support. The South did not succeed over slavery, as slavery had never been so well protected legally as it was in 1861. The South succeeded because it was convinced that the industrial North was determined to transform a federation into a unitary state and would not abide by any constitutional restraint. And the North did not invade to improve the condition of blacks. The cost of war to the North alone would have paid for the emancipation of every slave and 40 acres and a mule. So this basically, I find this interesting on so many different levels, and on my understanding on why the Civil War happened. Although I would like to believe that the war was over to slavery, to end slavery. But as we can see here, that wasn't the case. So um, industrialization and a unitary state allowed the Civil War to happen. And freedom and liberty were at stake when the Union decided to withhold the state power for the greater good of the government.